Good afternoon, everybody. My name is John Bile. I'm the acting director of the Jackson County Emergency Operations Center. And here with me today is Toby Rice from FEMA, who is our branch director and can assist with some questions if we have any that are related to FEMA. So I have several items that I want to touch on today, updates on several key initiatives that are undergoing for this event. The first one is signing up with FEMA for assistance. As reported earlier in this week, FEMA, at the request of the Oregon Office of Emergency Management, extended the deadline to register with FEMA from this last Monday, the 16th of November, to November 30th. And anyone who has suffered damage from this event is urged to register with FEMA so assistance that may be available to them can be provided. As we have noted before, the county continues to be concerned that there are eligible survivors who have not registered. And I'll provide an example of this. On last Tuesday, November 10th, there was 4,445 registered survivors, households with FEMA. Yesterday, 1 week later, November 17th, that number increased to 4,515. So just in the last week, 70 households have now registered with FEMA that had not done so prior, even though the fire was over 2 months away. We're concerned there's still additional people that are in this status, and we urge people to take time to register with FEMA. They can do so by registering at www.disasterassistance.gov. They can call the 1-800 number, 1-800-621-3362, or 1-800-621-FEMA. Or until this Saturday at 6 o'clock, they can also go to Central High School, which is the location of the Multi-Agency Resource Center, and they can get individual assistance there. There's less than 2 weeks to register. We urge people to get that done as quickly as possible. As I noted, as of yesterday, there's 4,515 valid registrations, and thus far, FEMA has provided grants through the individual and households program totaling $19,643 million, of which $15,891,000 is for housing assistance and $3,751,000 is for other assistance. These are significant amounts of money that are being provided to the citizens of our valley to assist them through this disaster, and the only way that can be accessed is by registering. Next, I want to talk about the debris cleanup. There's some significant accomplishments in this area that we're excited to announce. The first one is the step one, the household hazardous waste, is essentially complete. It is complete for all those that have provided rights of entry, and I'll touch on the rights of entry in a moment. Thus far, EPA has cleaned up 671 individual properties. This includes the majority of the mobile home parks. So the majority of the sites in the area have now been cleaned up by EPA and their contractors. During this process, EPA contractors did encounter additional hazardous waste, such as unlabeled drums, hazardous waste of other types. They also dealt with those items and removed those as well. So the area has been swept for every place that has a right of entry and has been cleared of those potential hazards. Currently, EPA and their contractors have demobilized out of this area, and they are in other parts of the state cleaning up fire-stricken communities there. But when we do get a sufficient number of rights of entry, they will return and they will continue their cleanup efforts here. As we have noted before, this program has been completed at no cost to individual property owners and at no cost to local governments that are represented in this area. FEMA is paying for 75% of the costs, and the state of Oregon is picking up the remainder 25%. And we're grateful for the state and for FEMA for helping us out in this area. Now on to step two. Step two is the large one. Step two is the $180-some million work to clean up the ash and the trash. As was the case for step one, leadership on this is being done by the Oregon Debris Management Task Force, a task force appointed by Governor Brown to complete this work. And on Monday, they announced some very good news for us. Typically, under federal rules and guidelines, many of the elements that we need cleaned up in this event, such as the cleaning up of commercial properties, including mobile home parks or commercial properties, burned vehicles, trees, damaged foundations, and similar things, are not normally eligible to be reimbursed by FEMA. And this has been a continued worry up until Monday. On Monday, the state announced actually, the county, through the Board of Commissioners, petitioned the state, Oregon Office of Emergency Management, to request a FEMA to cover these costs. So a complete and a comprehensive cleanup would be completed, not just the cleaning of non-commercial properties. On Monday, the state did announce that they have not received an answer from FEMA yet. That work is still in the works and is still pending. But in any case, they have made the decision to include all of the requested items in the cleanup at no additional cost to local governments or to private property owners. So what does this include? This includes now the cleanup of all private residential properties, mobile home parks, businesses, second residence, barns, agricultural buildings, and includes all the ash and the trash, burned vehicles, hazard trees, foundation, and other debris. Bottom line is what is being proposed now, and is what is going to be completed under the state's leadership, is a comprehensive cleanup of the burn scar. All properties that provide access to the state will be cleaned up. And this is fantastic news, because we were very concerned for quite some time that we'd have a bunch of pockets that were not cleaned up. To complete this work, there are several contracts that are needed. The first contract is a contract to monitor the work, to do all the record keeping and submit the records to FEMA for reimbursement, and to track the loads and to monitor the site to make sure it's cleaned up well. That contract has been awarded by the state. The next contract is a very large tree removal contract. That is on the streets now, and the state is actually, the bids have closed, and the state's evaluating that contract currently. And the last contract, a very large one, a expected $200 million type contract, is now open on the streets, and the state is receiving bids on that. That contract will close this Friday, and the state will evaluate those contractors, and it's hoped that a contract award will be made the first week of December, and the work will begin immediately after that. This work is what is being called state contracted, locally coordinated. So those of us in the local government can work with our stakeholders, can provide direction to the contractor, clean up this neighborhood first, then go to that neighborhood, etc., to complete this work. Like step one, step two is being completed at no cost to property owners and no cost to local governments. This is a huge win for Jackson County and a huge benefit to our citizens. As I noted, in order to do any of this work, rights of entry have to be provided. To date, we received 1,277 rights of entry. Quite a few of those are for mobile home owners within a mobile home park. And so we still need some more submitted. Of the total properties that have burned, 44 properties have opted out, and we are missing 175 rights of entry for properties in the burn scar area. Of that 175, 87 property owners do not have any current contact information. We are trying to find these people, but currently right now 87, we simply have no way to get a hold of them. We've mailed rights of entry forms to them, have not heard back. There's no phone number, so we're going to continue to try to find these people, but we're still missing 175, and in order to get the site completely cleaned up, we still need those to show up. Forms are available at www.jacksoncounty.org/ROE. And until Saturday, they can also be picked up at Central High School. If property owners do have questions on the right of entry form, they can call 1-682-800-5737 for assistance. Next item, talk a moment about housing. As I've noted before, housing is divided into 3 phases in response to this emergency. Phase 1 is the emergency sheltering that has to occur to take care of the individuals that are displaced. As of Monday, Red Cross was housing 550 individuals in 285 different hotel rooms throughout the valley. Red Cross is leading this effort. They have a contract with the state that is through December 31st, and after that we've been given assurances that additional assistance can be provided if people are not placed yet. When people register with FEMA, they indicate where they're at. And so, and unless they update this information, it does get a little old. But as of the current registrations that we have, which may or may not be updated 100%, I think it's important to recognize that just short of 50% of all the registrants are staying with friends and family. So the majority of the people are staying with friends and family. 17% were staying in hotels, and 6% were living in a new rental property that they were able to procure, and then many other smaller numbers in a variety of ways. So when we report out that 550 individuals are in motel rooms, most people do have a place to stay. Most people are safe, and there's, as far as we can tell, there's very few people sleeping in cars or simply completely homeless at the moment. Phase 2, which is the transitional housing piece. This is moving from the emergency into a location where people can stay for 6 to 18 months. As we've noted before, this is a role that's being led by FEMA through their direct housing mission here. There are several concurrent processes that go on through this step. The registrations are being evaluated. FEMA is talking to survivors, and currently they've made contact and had with 875 different households, had conversations regarding their housing needs. And as of yesterday morning, 302 of those households indicate that they need housing assistance. Those numbers will change as time goes on because people find options, people lose options, so those numbers do change. But currently the target that we're shooting to house for this transitional housing period, or FEMA is 302 households. At the same time, the search for available housing continues, and looking at all the rental housing, RV pads, retrofitting existing buildings, the dorms, etc., things that have been reported before. I'm pleased to announce that the options for this direct housing mission is starting to really narrow down. And we had a very productive meeting yesterday with FEMA and the mobile home park owners. FEMA approached the county a couple weeks ago and said, we believe that one of the best ways to provide housing is for us to go into a mobile home park before the state's contract, clean it up, restore any utilities that are burned and damaged, bring in our units for people to live in, and then pay the rental fees to the property owner. So basically, FEMA's proposing bringing people back into the same neighborhoods that they were displaced from, which is exactly what we wanted, is what we were hoping for. And so we had a very productive meeting with mobile home park owners yesterday to discuss this option, and many of the parks have now responding, saying that they're very interested in this option and they want to work more with FEMA on that option. So that's an exciting, and that's kind of priority number one on how we're going to address and how FEMA is going to address the current displaced folks. In addition, other priorities is continuing to use county parks, and contracts are being negotiated right now for the Southern Oregon RV Park and other county parks, and then utilizing state parks. Primarily, a hard look is being taken at Valley Road State Park. All the other options of rehabilitating buildings, building an emergency group site for RVs, those things are still on the table. But when I talk about the priorities, it is being narrowed down to rehabilitating existing mobile home parks, using county parks and state parks, and those other options are still out there, and one of them might rise to the top, but currently those are the options that are getting the greatest attention. The staging area at the expo is continuing to receive units. Currently we have 10 RVs and 8 mobile home units placed at the staging area, and more are being delivered as we speak, and those are going to continue to stream in and be located for those that need housing. The last item is just a quick update on the Greenway restoration work. We had big rains over the weekend. We've gone out and looked at the Greenway, and we're pleased with how it's performing thus far. These were not torrential rains, and so the restoration or the stabilization work that we did was not truly tested, but we did get a good indication that what we've done so far is working well. We've placed 175 bales of straw, which is just short of 2 full semi-truckloads of straw, scattered down on the ground to basically, when the raindrops hit that bare soil, that impact causes the soil to displace and starts flowing. The straw stops that. We've added 2.5 miles, 2.5 miles of wattles, these round tubes filled full of straw and bark chips that help slow the flow down, and we placed over 40,000 pounds of seed to germinate, and that seed is starting to germinate well with that moisture that we got. We did use EPA contractors and private contractors to do some of this work, but the bulk of this work was frankly completed by local volunteers that live in this community or in surrounding communities. Klamath Falls sent a contingent over, and many other local groups got involved to complete this work. So we're pleased that the stabilization work for the Greenway is primarily completed for the year. There's significant restoration work that's going to be occurring in following years, but stabilizing it for the winter is mostly done, and thus far that work is looking successful.